Annakin, I know you're a big Expos fan. I think you're one of the all-time big Expos fans I've ever not seen. You and
Mitch Melnick.
the other fan, and Perry.
Yeah.
You know Perry?
Oh,
Yeah,
Perry.
Perry makes me look like an amateur. He's such a
Yeah, he's intense, man. He's intense.
Yeah, he's intense.
Oh man.
The way Expos left, the Expos left was left a lot of bitterness in the Expos fans' mouths, and I just want to know: do you believe that the Expos owner David Samson and the whole family they did enough to keep the Expos, or they didn't?
Well, they definitely didn't do enough. I think it's pretty clear that they were never, dedicated to the idea of keeping the Expos in Montreal. I don't think they got up in the morning and say, "Okay, guys, how are we keeping the Expos in Montreal?" I think they saw it as a way to, get it to Florida or get it into an American market where they, A, felt more comfortable, B, probably could make a lot more money. So I think they did what they had to do. I think there's a common, listen, they're villains in a lot of ways, and there's no way around that. But I think there's the tendency about Expos fans to say that they were the cause of the team leaving, and they weren't. They were just the ones who put the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I think the problems were way before that, and listen, I'm never gonna say anything nice about David Samson in particular or Loria, because just ask Miami fans what they think about.
They feel the exact same way.
Right. So, I'm not going to defend them in any way, but I'm also not going to make them into these ultimate bad guys that stole our team from us. There were problems way before that, and anybody who was watching games at those times or went to the Big O knew that, there was talk about the team moving before Loria was in there. And, as the early night, even during the 94 season, it was kind of a comeback season. And the years before that, it was kind of like, man, we were in last place, I think in 91. Nobody was coming. A big chunk of the Olympic Stadium fell off. A lot of people forget that. The 1991, a chunk of the Olympic Stadium fell off, and they had to play the rest of September on the road. Okay. So, if you're a dad and you got kids and you want to go to the Big O to watch a game, right? I'd be like, I don't know, I don't want to take my kids to this crumbling stadium, So there was already those kinds of problems rooted in the franchise, and it just kind of deteriorated. 94 was obviously terrible for us because there was so much hope, and it seemed like things were starting to turn around. And then when the Loria, and smartly, they came in and said, we have something. If we move it somewhere else, we can make something out of it, And they did what they had to do, I guess.
We had him on, actually. We have another show, our first show, because we run a little network here, and it's called Not Sauce for Work, and we interviewed David Samson, actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and we asked him all these questions, did you just buy it to flip it, all these things, and he gave us all the good answers. And I don't hate the guy, but listening to him, he's a little bit of a snake oil salesman, and I basically told him in the interview, we both said it, we're what you did was you spent all this money on average players and all these things. What do you expect the fan base to think that you're trying to do? And he basically didn't have an answer. He kind of squirted around it saying, what did you expect us to do? We were tied up. We couldn't get a TV deal. Claude Brochu this, Claude Brochu that, Bronfman this, Bronfman that. So there was always pointing the finger everywhere else. And it came out to the point at the end of the interview, him and actually my co-host Pisa, they've bonded. They talk to each other all the time on Twitter and stuff. Now they've kind of built this weird friendship, and and it's pretty interesting. But I don't hate the guy, but I also if his name was written down as a potential owner of the next Montreal Expos, or if it ever happens, then I would be extremely mad. And I'm kind of I'm a switched over Mets fan, but until the Expos come back, so. But either way, if he comes back, I doubt it would ever happen. But I would be really pissed because he just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth here in the city.
Did you ever hear Ariel Helwani?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where we just got the inspiration from, and then we DM'd him. Well, we kind of sent him a message on Twitter, and he's like, "I'll come on the show right now," and we spoke to him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Ariel ripped him.
Yeah, Ariel sent me personally the clip before it was up because he wanted me to hear it first. And he was like, dude, he's like, this was a dream come true. And him and I laughed about it, and I posted it, and we got so much hate from people who were you know, oh, it's so petty what Ariel did, and I'm like,
Why?
you will never understand. You know, that's the one thing I say to people. How many people have really experienced losing a team? You could lose a championship, you could lose your favorite player, you know, you could have heartbreaking games or whatever, but to actually have something so important to your life just like kind of ripped away from you, like very, you know, Seattle could relate with the Sonics because I think they had a really nice following. You know, but I mean, aside from that, can you name 5 cities, you know, in our generation? I'm not talking about Brooklyn Dodgers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people in Brooklyn still heard about that.
Well, the Browns the Browns switched over to the Ravens. Alex is a Ravens fan.
Browns, but they knew they were getting their team
Yeah.
back. Just it was a kind of like a it's kind of just you'll be okay.